Thank you for tuning into my channel. This is Dr. O. I'm Dr. Omai Coffee, and I have been teaching, preaching, talking, studying, researching, and declaring God, relationships, and money. That's all the conversation that I have for people. I don't have anything else. God, relationships, and money. Because those are the most difficult things or the most challenging things that I've seen people have difficulties with. And outside of God, relationships, and money, there may be other issues, but those are the ones that I talk about on my channel. So share this channel, subscribe, and get ready to ride. Now let me address God first and foremost. When I think about scripture and Bible and the deconstruction and so many people leaving so many different religions and so many people feeling bamboozled, lied to, frustrated, having anxiety around religion, spirituality, controls, rituals, things that they've been through as they grew up. Your belief system was handed to you by somebody else. Start there. Most people's, not yours, excuse me, let me be very clear. Most people's belief systems were handed to them by someone else. Yes or yes? Now, as you get older, experience may lead you to your belief system. Maybe you have an encounter. Maybe you have a situation or circumstance. Maybe you meet someone. Maybe you don't meet someone. And that leads you to going through a spiritual experience or an awakening, if you will. And that's why I've even read the scripture that said, until you're born again, none of this is going to matter, because maybe it's cultural or your pedigree or your creed, background, grandmother, mother's mother, somebody's father, something gave you your religion. The history of the histories of histories gave you your religion, right? That's why it's his story. It's somebody else's story handed down to you. Even the oracle, right? Or the oral relation of story was handed down per person. So how do you explain clouds? I don't know. Maybe those are ships. I don't know what to call those flying things. Maybe they're angels. I don't know. And sometimes, a lot of the times, mysteries became mythology. And mythology became mysterious. And a lot of religion is based off of those things. So sometimes if I'm going to tell you a story, we're going to play that game called telephone. I might say the blue car moves, and somebody else says the car moves, and somebody else says the blue moves, and somebody else says the blue bike moves, and somebody else says, well, it's a bus. Somebody says, oh, it was a blue woman walking. You know what I'm saying? And then it starts to get crazy. I'm not trying to make fun of your religion or anything like that, but we're playing a big old game of telephone. You only know what you've been taught and programmed to think until you're a critical thinker, until you start awakening, until you start becoming more woke, until you start thinking for yourself and believing from your own perspectives and perception. You're just a copy of a copy of a copy. So when I talk about God, I'm talking about a connection that you have the way you have it. Before you even open up a book or scriptures, or you open up somebody else's religion. It does not hurt to study to show yourself approved. It does not hurt to learn from different people. It does not hurt to have diversity. But before we start talking unity, can we get to university? We have to get to some knowledge of self before I start thinking about knowledge of external things. And this man-made God that's been handed down to a lot of people. And the reason why we know it's been handed down to a lot of people, because still today, I'm watching videos today of white disciples and white Jesus, when we know clearly that that is not true. But we're still seeing it today, even though we know it's propaganda. We know it's incorrect. We know that it's wrong, but we still see the imagery. And that alone is a spell. You are a lunatic if you want someone to believe that Jesus and or his disciples, maybe not all, but I'm telling you right now that these African, Middle Eastern people were not white. Does that mean that white people didn't exist? No, this means simply that we know that the imagery running around of white people as it pertains to the Hebrews and or the Jews and or the Israelites and or the tribe of Dan is incorrect. We also know through biology, through science, that the X chromosome is 200,000 years prior to than the mutated Y chromosome. We also are very clear that mitochondrial Eve and Adam, these people existed millions and millions of years ago, and they were from the Horn of Africa. Now, I don't care if these people had nappy hair, straight hair, blue eyes, or translucent skin. It is tough to live where the sun shines if you do not have melanin, rich melanin, to beat those UV rays. And the only woman on the planet who can birth every human on the planet has rich melanated skin. So whatever brainwashing you're going through as it pertains to people of color, as it pertains to religious controls, you gotta stop and think. If Eden, Havilah, which is in near the Nile, be true, and a white man has never on the history of humanity produced a black person, then I don't want to hear about who the Israelites and the Jewish people were. And I do care. I know, what does it matter? What does it matter? If it didn't matter, they wouldn't force, to this day, in year 2026, white pictures of white people when we're reading the Bible. That's what I want to say about God. Now, let me get to relationships. There is no divide between woman and man. We coexist. We are one. That's it. End of story. None of us got here without either of us. All of us, it took a man and a woman to get us here. And that's the end of that story. That's how we will exist. That's how we came. That's how we'll exist. And that's how we'll leave. That's what I have to say about relationships. Now, when it comes to partnerships, that's a different story. You definitely want to be equally yoked with your partners. Other than that, suffer in hell. Because you might as well just kiss Satan and marry Satan, because that's exactly what it's going to feel like if you're unequally yoked. And I'm done with the relationships. Now, I'm going to move to the end. Don't miss God, relationships, and money, because we're going to stop at the end real quick. That's the spirit of abundance. What the hell are you talking about? You came from nothing. You came from everything. The fact that you're programmed to think that you have to suffer in order to make it, you got to go through something to get somewhere. That struggle culture is a spell and a curse and lunacy. You're out of your mind when you don't know and understand that you are operating at a full abundance. Trillions of cells, billions of sperm, hundreds of thousands of eggs, millions and billions of relatives before you got here. And you want to talk to me about you came from nothing? I'm done with that discussion. And now I move to the money. You're being bamboozled if you don't think and know that money is an energy and money is extremely necessary. Resources are extremely necessary or they wouldn't be here. Resources are extremely powerful or they wouldn't be here. You do know that a tree with fruit on it is a resource, correct? You do know that water, air, elements are resources, correct? You do understand that the skin on your body is a resource to your body, correct? You do get that your eyes are a resource to your head, correct? Resources matter. Don't love the creation more than you love the creator. I don't think the creator cares. I think the creator made sure and wanted you to have resources and be resourceful also. Therefore, that's why they're here. To make sure that you can do the thing that you need to do while you're here. And as a creator, you might want to appreciate these here resources so they can increase. Because if you don't, they're going to decrease. And that's